a text message saying I'm not on YouTube. What the heck? Well, now I'm on YouTube. Welcome, everybody joining us on YouTube. Something happened and I wasn't there, but now I am. So, as we're saying, as I was saying, Tom Knighton's supposed to be joining us. I do not know what happened, but he dropped, and we're waiting for him to come back. And I see him now, so we're going to go ahead and bring Tom in. And there he is. Tom, I don't know what happened, man, but poof, you were gone as we were going live.
My internet crapped the bed.
Okay. So your internet is aimed Amber Heard. It's been weird.
Yeah, it went full Amber Heard. I'm lucky to still have all my fingers. So.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I want to talk about this ATF story. I was just explaining the backstory of how Lee Williams filed the FOIA request and has gotten nothing for 11 months. Well, today, the story, Lee posted the story about the Biden ATF going after rogue gun dealers. And these rogue gun dealers have done things like left a number out, a single digit out of a 9-digit number. And so all of a sudden, instead of making a mistake, they're now a rogue gun dealer, and the Biden ATF is going after them and shutting them down. Let me go to see if I can find the number in the story here. 273 FFLs in 11 months.
Yeah, this is actually something that Democrats are really good at doing. That is reframing things so that it sounds more insidious. Anybody who's tried to transcribe a number has made that kind of mistake.
Right.
All right.
Or inverted a couple of numbers. Instead of 8-7, they put 7-8. You're human. This happens.
This is right. I was about to say these are human errors. This is the kind of thing that the mistake we all make. What they're now trying to say is this human error is really a felony, and that they're going to treat these gun dealers who make these human errors as if they are intentionally trying to arm the worst people in society. Because the truth of the matter is the actual rogue gun dealers, I don't know, 12?
Maybe.
I'm pulling a number out of my fifth point of contact here. But, I mean, it's a very small number. And the ATF knows that. But Biden's wanting to make it a big thing. And the problem with any agency that's part of the executive branch of government, what the president wants, the president gets. If the president says, I want to go after rogue gun dealers and I want to show that this is a thing, they'll make it happen. Yeah. And they'll do stuff like this. This is all that's happened.
Yeah, I honestly think, and by the way, you can get in on the conversation, just comment on the YouTube or Facebook video, or you can tweet with the hashtag Bullet Podcast. We will excuse me, we'll get your comments and get you on the air as well. But Tom, I think the ultimate end goal is if the ATF could shut down this is me speaking, if the ATF could shut down every gun dealer in America, they would.
Oh, yeah. It's the Second Amendment's not real meaningful if there's no one to buy a gun from. You can have the right to keep and bear arms, but if you can't build your own gun and you can't buy one from them, it's words on a paper.
Yeah.
And the ATF is not an agency that is interested in preserving our rights. Their sole exists to restrict our right to keep and bear arms. Well, how better to restrict it than keep any of us from owning a gun lawfully? Then it's real easy. You have a gun and all.
Let me get a comment in here. George over on the Facebook side says, I'm a rogue motorist. I drove 46 miles an hour in a 45 zone. Shame on you, George. I'm telling you.
Felon.
Yes.
Oh, so much for law-abiding gun owners.
Yeah, I've got both my wife and I have Can-Am bikes. They're the spiders, the one with the two wheels up front, the one wheel in back. The reverse trikes, or whatever you want to call them. But one of the things these things have are the digital speedometers. And they'll tell you, they don't, it's not a gauge where I could be doing 30, I could be doing 31, I could be doing 32. They'll tell you you're doing 30, 31, 32. And you can be accelerating and crack start backing off the throttle at 25, and you're going to get to 35 if you're accelerating in a hurry. If you start rolling off the throttle at 25, you might hit 35 before you stop increasing your speed. So, anyway, yeah, it's the ATI. Again, this is out of the Biden administration. I wish I could say this were surprising. It's really not. It's and Lord help us if we actually get this person. And I do not have the name in front of me, and my brain isn't bringing it forward. The new nominee to lead the ATF,
Steve Diedelbach.
Yeah. If we get Diedelbach, it's gonna be this times 3. It's just gonna be ATF unleashed, or AFT as Biden often calls it.
Yeah, that's so many jokes, so little time.
Telling you. Let's. I want to jump off to this next story. This is David Codrea. Stacy Abrams insists on, she said that, and I don't know how she plans on doing this, she insists that should she become governor, she's going to repeal permitless carry in Georgia. She calls it, and I don't know where she pulls this out of, she calls it criminal carry. I think she's referring to
between her teeth.
Yeah, well, I think she's referring to her voters is when she's referring to criminal carry.
Well, pretty sure that's how she almost got elected 4 years ago.
Yeah, this is to start with, if you are a criminal, if you are a felon, you cannot have a firearm anyway. That's against federal law. That doesn't change no matter what state law says. And nothing in Georgia state law says it's legal for a felon to carry. So she's basically pulling this out of her fifth point of contact.
Right. She's one of many people who have taken this idea that constitutional carry somehow empowers criminals, which doesn't make any sense. Let's keep in mind that the state that's had constitutional carry the longest is Vermont. Vermont has never had a law dictating who can carry what. Right. It is also routinely in the 10th state in the entire country. They seem to be able to find a way to keep, deal with bad people without needing, to check for permits. It's been, the law on the books in some place. In other places for years and years. They've not had a problem either. The street cops know who's a felon and they're on their beat. They probably are the ones who arrested them for the felony in the first place. Or they know that, my buddy just arrested, Joe over there for, armed robbery. Well, if I find him with a gun now, they know who these people are. They don't have a problem arresting them as an armed felon. Yeah, it's not as big an issue as they want them to be, and it's really just not an issue. Because I hate to break it to Stacy, but the criminals in Georgia have been carrying guns for years without it.
Yeah, the criminals don't follow the law by the very definition. They don't care Go ahead.
My hometown was at one time the murder capital of the U.S. Now it was close for a while, but we pulled together as a community and we got those last 3 murders. So go us. But seriously, this is a town in the state of Georgia that had a serious homicide issue, and these criminals weren't getting Georgia permits. Atlanta's getting shot up every night. Okay, yeah, it's not as bad as Chicago or New York or Detroit or a place like that, but it's still, they're having their issues. They had those issues before constitutional carry passed. If Stacy gets her, Abrams gets her wish to repeal it, the problems are going to continue long after. The only person whose people are going to get impacted are people like me.
Right. Well, and the general public, because right now, the general public doesn't have to go to the government and say, "Mother, may I?" They can just go about their business. And the higher percentage of people carrying is going to make the streets safer by and large, because Joe Criminal is going to have to watch his P's and Q's more. If I rob this person, are they going to shoot me?
Yeah, it may take a little while for it to show up in the statistics, because it takes, let's face it, if criminals were smart, they probably wouldn't be criminals. So, it takes a little while before they start seeing their buddies get shot and go, maybe we should rethink this.
Well, and
but also, it still holds.
I also want to say that permitless carry, constitutional carry, is not the be-all, end-all. It doesn't solve all crime. There's still crime in Phoenix. And Phoenix, Arizona has had permitless carry for quite a while. Texas has had constitutional carry, permitless carry for a year. There's still crime in Houston. There's still crime in Dallas.
Yeah. And you're right. Constitution isn't going to make it all go away. It isn't going to make all violent crime go away. You're never, we had violent crime when there was only one family walking the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Book of Genesis, if you're a believer, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, they're if it starts that early, it's part of the human condition.
There you go.
You're going to have people who are going to commit acts of violence. You're not going to make that go away. You can just arm people or allow people to arm themselves so that they can meet the threat when it comes.
Yep. Next question I want to get into. This was written by your boss. Cam wrote this one, and looks like there's been a move to draft Alan West to run against Wayne LaPierre for the head of the NRA, or the executive vice president, which, in point of fact, is the head of the NRA. You would think the president would be, but for the NRA, it's the executive vice president. And but anyway, Lieutenant Colonel West came out today. He said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." We'll have to see how this goes. Do I give this a whole lot of chance of because the membership doesn't elect the executive vice president, the board does. We'll see how this goes later this month, but
NRA is governed is kind of weird. It is not as straightforward as you would see in a lot of organizations. It's kind of a knock against them in a lot of people's minds, justifiably. Normally the membership makes the vote. They're the ones who vote for whatever. But just having an NRA membership isn't enough to get you voting privileges.
No,
in and of itself, you've got to be a member for X amount of time and all this, and it just. That comes from, some of it is, okay, we need to make sure that every town can buy all their supporters NRA memberships and upturn the voting. I get where some of that comes from, but parts of it is really kind of Byzantine. So
parts of it is...
It's kind of hard to say whether it's going to work or not.
Parts of it is Marion Hammer wanting to stay in power and wanting to keep Wayne LaPierre as executive vice president. I've said this on the air numerous times. There is rot in the NRA. It's at the very top, and hopefully that rot can be excised. I believe in the NRA. I believe in what they do. I believe the NRA can do great things in the future, And honestly, I believe Pee Wee Herman could be a better executive vice president for the NRA than Wayne is right now.
Well, the NRA is the gorilla in the gun rights movement. That's not to say that anybody else doing good work, but if nothing else, we need the NRA to draw fire.
Yeah.
While everyone else is, doing their part, the NRA is dealing with a lot of flack, that's not being directed towards the Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, etc. So I really want the NRA to be around, if for no other reason than to fill that role.
And you think about it, the legacy media, the New York Times, the CBS News, NBC News, whatever, the legacy media, when they want to go after somebody in the gun rights arena, who do they go after? They go after the NRA.
Mm-hmm.
So
every gun control candidate that we're between now and November is going to talk about taking on the NRA.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to talk about the gun rights movement. They're not going to talk about, I'm going to go toe to toe with Eric Pratt or Alan Gottlieb. They're not talking about that. They're going to talk about the NRA. Now, in their mind, NRA is synonymous with gun rights, but that's okay if that's they're going to focus all their attention on the organization that's best equipped to take it, so that everybody else can do their part. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, the NRA's fine with it.
Well, that I'm sure they wish everybody would see the light, and then so do I. But I'm kind of glad my email box is relatively quiet if you consider dozens and dozens of emails a day quiet. At least they're not coming from 60 Minutes or from wherever. And my phone doesn't ring all that often for non-business related stuff and outside of work type stuff. So and then I'm going to get into, we've got a whole lot of good stuff to talk about that you've written. I want to talk about this story. And speaking of, we said Phoenix has permitless carry and it doesn't stop crime. There was a real mental giant out here that you wrote about in an article that got published yesterday. Their argument comes up, a guy pulls an airsoft gun and then gets shot with a real gun.
Stupid games win stupid prizes.
Yes.
It's kind of insane that you try something like that. I can kind of understand someone hoping to, commit an army with an airsoft, thinking, well, okay, this guy's probably armed because a lot of places won't let their employees be armed, and then if I get caught, it wasn't a real gun, and they might go easier on me.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of see the thinking on that. Now, from my understanding, it doesn't really help all that much with sentencing. It's still considered armed robbery, but I can see the thinking. But when you're in an argument with someone and you pull an airsoft gun, you might as well take a Sharpie and write on your bare chest, "Shoot here."
With big arrows. Yes.
Big arrows, a circle, if you can neon sign to point there, you just might as well, because what do you think you're going to do?
Yeah.
It's the only thing you can do. You're hoping to do is intimidate this person. You've now aggravated assault, so good job there. And that's it. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
People knew each other. This wasn't like arguing over a spot pass. They knew each other. They were arguing a mutual acquaintance. And so you pull that, you think it's the win what's the win scenario?
Yeah,
well, he won something, all right.
Yeah, he won the Darwin Award.
I pray it's a Darwin Award case that he hadn't reproduced. The gene pool cannot handle that.
I want to talk also about one that this one hit today, about normalization of constitutional carry. Washington Times just doesn't seem to get it, man.
Yeah, personally, I think it's actually becoming normal and normalized good thing. You know, we've got 25 states that are now constitutional carry. Florida is probably going to join them in the next year or two. You know, Ron DeSantis said he's going to see that happen. There's some other states that I think will probably come along at some point in the future. Nebraska was surprisingly close this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think, another year or two, we may see Nebraska get it. You've got the Carolinas, or South Carolina's probably going to do it before North Carolina. North Carolina leans a little more anti-gun-ish. I think it'll be a hell of a fight up there to make it pass. But, I mean, you've got a lot of states that potentially could become constitutional carry states in the next 5 to 10 years, leaving only the current may-issue states left.
Right. So it's going to be, and we've got another month to 6 weeks, and we're going to have maybe no may-issue states left if the Supreme Court comes down the way we hope they will.
Yeah. It's, I was just talking about this earlier today, actually. We're going to have this, we're probably going to see the end of May issue. What's going to be left is how many games can states play on issuing. Because, if the door's open for a training requirement, well, don't be surprised to see New York and California you're going to have 120 hours of training.
They're going to set the standard for civilians the exact same as they set for police training. But keep in mind...
Or higher.
Yeah. Keep in mind, the police, when they train, their hours go towards evidence, their hours go toward law, their hours go towards a lot of other things besides firing firearms and the legality around firearms. My understanding is about 1/4 of the time, less than 1/4 of the time, a prospective officer spends in the police academy is actually doing firearms related work.
Yeah, my dad's a retired police officer.
Yeah.
So I grew up around law enforcement. And the truth of the matter is there's little police officers spend more of their time worrying about procedural things than guns. Really, think about it. The average officer goes through their entire career without discharging their round in the line of duty. They're going to need the procedural stuff more often. They're not spending, most officers go through the academy, like you say, less than 1/4 of the time they're there doing anything with firearms. If they qualify quickly, it's even less. Because that 1/4 probably includes a lot of remedial training.
Yep.
To get them to qualify. And then they never, a lot of them never set foot on a range again except to qualify every year.
And that's the dangerous part.
That's the standard we're supposed to have. Yeah. That's the standard we're held up to. Most of us exceed that standard.
Oh, yeah. I've after my stroke, I shot expert in the FBI qualifications after my stroke, and I actually scored instructor level. So one more, and this is a kind of two topics I want to go off on. This next one, this one was one that hit late yesterday. NBC is this is just bad journalism. The story about stolen guns out of cars. Yes, first of all, your car is not a holster. Do not leave your gun there. I mean, that's common sense. And even in Sioux Falls, there has been a spate of, Sioux Falls being my hometown, there's been a spate of people stealing stuff out of cars, firearms being among them. So I'll be among the people to say, do not ever, period, leave your firearm in a car. And oh, by the way, if you've got an NRA sticker on your car, if you've got a SAF sticker on your car, if you've got a Remington, a Glock, anything sticker on your car, please, for the love of God, don't leave your gun in there, because guess what? That's an "I've got a gun" sticker. So,
if you're gonna leave a gun in the car, put the Brady campaign sticker on there.
Well, I don't know.
If you have to, they do make safes, gun safes for inside of a car. If you, for some reason, are in a position where this is something you will have to do, get a safe.
Yeah,
please.
And don't rely on that for everyday use. I mean, the safest place for your firearm is in a holster on your body.
Right. If this is just I have to go someplace once a week that I cannot carry my gun, and I'm, out and about enough that you can't leave it at home. That's about the only way. That should be a bare minimum.
Yeah.
A safe should be a bare minimum.
And then
no, go ahead.
This story that you wrote, this NBC news article, they use an example of a young person, a young lady. Her car was getting broke into, and she went to go confront this person. She successfully confronted the person, was holding the bad guy at gunpoint. She got distracted. Bad guy shoots and kills her with a gun that he stole out of another vehicle a while back. But this is a bad example of I mean, like you wrote, I mean, it's a tragedy. She should have never have died, but it's got very, very little to do with the story, other than proving our point that the criminal didn't go through a background check to get that gun.
Right. And they are real bad about, this is a growing problem, and it is. I see the stories every single day. I've written, oh God, at least a dozen telling people, don't leave your gun in the flipping car. But this is blown out of proportion. They use this story as a way to make you feel like you've got to do something. This was a young, attractive girl. She was Coast Guard. She had just gotten engaged like 3 days earlier. I mean, everything that could tug at a heartstring was at work there.
Yeah.
But shouldn't, this is there's a lot going on, to be honest. For one thing, she, don't go out and confront someone at gunpoint if you're not fully ready to pull that trigger.
Get a couple comments in here. Going back to our previous story, My Take says, hard to believe a police officer wouldn't practice when their life depends on it as part of their job. My Take, I've interacted with a lot of police over my lifetime, and usually on the positive side. In my youth, not so much all the time, but I do talk to a lot of police officers, and my general take from talking to police officers is, and I've gotten this from a lot of police officers as well, especially those that train police officers, about 25% of police officers are firearms enthusiasts, practice and try to utilize their tools very well. About 50% are give or take. It's either way, and they practice enough to pass their qualifications, and maybe once in a while outside of that. And about 25% really don't care for firearms that much and practice the bare minimum they have to pass their qualifications.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have to qualify, they'd never touch it.
And it's also important to understand that we see it as part of their job, when their life depends on it. Really look at the total number of officers killed in the line of duty versus the number of police officers there are in the country. It's not a huge percentage. And so a lot of them can rationalize of what are the odds it's going to be me.
And then going back...
Now, I grew up dealing with the loss of a family friend, another police officer killed in the line of duty. So I view it a little differently, but I'm not the guy in the uniform.
Yeah. My take on the one we had about the car thefts, or the thefts of guns out of cars. Problem is, a lot of places are patchworks of logs around concealed carry. So yes, get a car safe for temporary storage. And again, that's if you have to leave your gun in your car. If you don't have to, don't. And don't. And I'm going to say, if you're bad on you if your gun gets stolen out of your car at your place of residence. That should never, ever happen.
I am vehement against the idea of a truck gun, or there's a lot of people who will sit there and they're like, well, I leave a gun in the car at all times. Really? I'm not a big fan of that.
All right, now, one more. And we're already late, but one more comment, and then I got one more story just because it's a fun story. John Petrolino says, Tom, you're out of uniform.
John be wearing pants.
All right, last story I want to cover today, and this is I put this one in the show notes as in the You Don't Say file. Naked Middle Georgia man tackled woman off of lawnmower before her husband shot him, deputies say. You mean if a naked guy runs onto your yard, tackles your wife who's on the lawnmower? I think there's reasonable threat to your wife and serious to great bodily harm that you can use deadly force. I seriously doubt this ever made it to the DA.
Well, this is a guy who took open carry way too far. Way too far. The guy stories are always fun because the dude's naked. What are you going to do? And yeah, this is Georgia. In Middle Georgia, you can't even say it's Florida influence that we tend to see here in South Georgia where I'm at. I'm gonna blame Atlanta for that, just for the record.
Well,
this is like the Atlanta brain cloud leaking into Middle Georgia.
I gotta say, I was really looking through that story. I was waiting for Florida Man. I really was, because that story just has the Florida Man vibe.
Well, Georgia and Florida are a big rivalry in college football, and so it's kind of spread out throughout the state. And now some people are like, we have to compete with Florida on everything.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. Well, we are now 5.5 minutes over time. So, Tom, if you would please, on our way out, let people know where they can find your stuff, because everybody needs to be reading Tom Knighton's stuff.
Most of it you can find at bearingarms.com. I also write in a piece, politics.com. I also have my newsletter, which is tomknighton.substack.com. And you can find me on Twitter at the Tom Knighton.
All right. On my part, I want to apologize for not making it yesterday. I caught a minor case of food poisoning and was not able to be on the air. I was really not feeling my oats yesterday. So thank you, Tom, for you were my scheduled commentator yesterday. Thank you for re-upping and doing it today instead.
Happy to do it, man.
All right, folks.
I got you back.
Do come join us 5 p.m. for Central Time the rest of the week. And thanks for watching today. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.